Well, good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be able to fill in for our chair, Hetty Fry, vice chair, Larry McGuire here as well. I'll be chairing today's meeting, and I want to welcome our guests here from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation to start with this morning. We have an hour and a half of your presentations, and then we will have, I believe it's because of the time we have today, we'll do a couple of 7-minute rounds, I believe, and then as time permits, we'll do a round of one or two rounds of 5 minutes each. Those include the questions and the answers, as my chair always says and informs our guests and members as well. So with that, I would like to introduce Mr. Cochrane, Ms. McGuire, welcome to the family name, Mr. Cormier, Mr. Dubé as well. Pleasure to have you with us this morning to begin to look at. Yeah, oh no, the other side of the family spelled it that way as well when we left Ireland. So thank you very much for being here this morning and taking time out of your busy schedules to appear before our committee. We're dealing with rural and remote areas of broadcasting and media, not just television or radio, but certainly want to have your input into this very important topic from our perspective in regards to making sure that we provide as much news into those areas of Canada that we can. And of course, we're very interested in the models that you work with. And so with that, I will turn it over to you for your presentation, 10 minutes, and then we'll proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the committee, for inviting us here today. We welcome this opportunity to meet with you to talk about local services. Canadians have told us, as you have heard through the CRTC hearings, that local news is of utmost importance to them. We're somewhat unique in the ecosystem, so we thought we'd begin by talking about CBC locally and what's going on in the country for us right now. In Newfoundland and Atlantic time zones, the day is well underway. About 80 of our news gatherers are already chasing stories. They'll file them across platforms for mobile, desktop, radio, and television. Soon, our radio noontime programs will connect neighbours with issues in their community, and our other teams are preparing for our afternoon shows on radio and our 6 o'clock television supper hours in every province. In the digital world, our deadlines are continuous. On our own site and on others' social channels, stories are being posted, published, tweeted, broadcast, and telecast, and updated all through the waking hours. When breaking news deserves immediate attention, it goes first as a push alert. Here in the Eastern Time Zone, daily story meetings are getting underway right now, and every day is different, yet every day is in some ways the same. There are always more stories than reporters we have to cover them, or as the case may be, uncover them. Local editorial choices are always a balance of dealing with breaking news, and particularly for CBC, leadership in stories no one else is doing. These, for us, take two forms: what we call enterprise stories, which are generated from the native curiosity of our reporters and staff, and investigative stories, probing for facts and patterns, asking questions previously unasked, and if need be, and often, holding principals to account. I'm proud to say that we have more than 70 CBC journalists dedicated to investigative reporting today. This has grown, and they're based in cities across the country. To the west of here in our Central Time Zone, our Winnipeg morning show just wrapped up. It's the most listened to morning radio program in its market, and Canadians across this country wake up to CBC Radio. We are number 1 in 13 of the 23 markets where ratings are taken, and we are in the top 3 in almost every rated community in the country. Ratings are not the driver for a public service broadcaster, but they're an indicator of our relevance to Canadians. Over the next hours, about 150 more CBC news gatherers will be at work across our 4 western provinces. And in the north, our day takes on many more dimensions. We broadcast in 8 Aboriginal languages from stations across 3,500 kilometres of Canada, from Whitehorse eastward to Iqaluit and Kuujjuaq. I've used a lot of numbers, so let me gather the math for you. Altogether, we have 350 news gatherers in our local stations who work alongside 650 writers, editors, producers, and hosts. All of them work in an integrated way to present our radio and television programs, plus our continuous publishing of digital content on all our platforms and other people's platforms. Our local programming across the country exceeds 8,000 broadcast minutes a day, Monday to Friday, plus digital, plus additional content all weekend long on all platforms. We originate from 33 stations, including one all-digital station in Hamilton and 3 in the north. To do this, we have about 1,150 people working today in local services to cover this large country that we live in. This is fewer than before. We've made reductions and have faced the same pressures others have, but we took difficult but considered steps we thought were important to ensure sustainability in the long term. We reimagined everything. It's led to the largest transformation ever in local broadcasting within CBC Radio Canada. Today, our local services are central to our long-term corporate plan, Strategy 2020. Local is at the forefront of the digital shift for the whole company and key for us to be able to deliver more local services where audiences are moving at less cost on mobile, desktop, radio, and television. Many of our reporters today will end the day after doing a story that doesn't even exist or they don't even know about right now. We resource our stations and train our people for many eventualities, among them the ability to stream or broadcast live from anywhere at a moment's notice through satellite technology or through their smartphone. We have a brief video to show to you today that started that way about 2 weeks ago.
This is Highway 63, the main road in and out of Fort McMurray. This is insane.
The flames were just right at the side of the highway. It was terrifying.
All news starts local.
The car flew down the track.
CBC examined accident-prone crossings across the country. We found widespread design flaws that create risk.
There's no point in keeping valuable safety information secret. Get it out there.
CBC Local News, leading major news stories.
Hi, it's Erica Johnson calling from Go Public. Why are you stealing people's money?
To effect positive change.
For the women! The missing, murdered women!
As you watch, listen to, connect, across all CBC's platforms, with a fully integrated digital local news experience.
Now radio and TV and online staff work together every day.
Everyone out there is becoming our sources.
What's a buddy bench?
If you can't find your best friends, you sit on a buddy bench and somebody will come find you and they'll include you in your game.
Hi there, I'm Andrew Chang. You're watching CBC Vancouver.
Wherever you go.
I'm David Gray in Calgary.
In every corner. Coast to coast to coast. CBC, more local than ever.
Peter Warden, CBC News at Eloise.
Tori Gillis, CBC News, Regina.
I'm meteorologist Christy Kleiman-Haga, and you're watching CBC Saskatchewan.
Good morning, Vancouver.
CBC Radio 1.
In Prince Edward Island, you're watching CBC.
See you at 6.
Watch out.
Active in the community.
Our community, our neighborhood.
What's theme for this year's Food Bank Day is grace. People come in and we get to say hi, get their reactions, and it's awesome.
Our conversations.
You may have heard this morning on World Report.
Stories. With updates on the hour.
Developing story to tell you about now.
A touch away. Whole day news. CBC Local News. Never far. Accessible. Anytime.
We have only just begun.
In step with Canadians. Where we live. Wherever we go. CBC Local News.
Okay, so that was a sizzle reel and not a newscast. But you saw from the tape our coverage of Fort McMurray in the midst of the fury of the fires. CBC provided up-to-the-minute coverage that residents needed in both official languages, including survival information through the early hours and continuing through the evacuation, details on where to get help, ways to lend a helping hand in terms of contributions to charities, expanded local footprint in terms of the local service we were providing, and of course the local programming was supported by the network and vice versa. On our website we were continuous and people were able to reach us with timely information that they could rely on. So CBC was there giving essential information, helping the community navigate its choices, challenges, and causes for relief or celebration in service of the local community, but as important, sharing those local stories across the country, and that's what we do each and every day. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to our discussion afterwards, but now I would like to introduce my colleague for Radio-Canada, Michel Cormier, General Manager of News and Current Affairs.
Merci, Jennifer. Merci.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. We're very happy to be here today. Marc Cohen-Dubé, who is the Director of Regional Services, is sitting beside me. It's a very important work that he does. As with the entire French Services News Department, Radio-Canada's local and regional news teams are in the process of accelerating their digital and mobile offering. Today, our audiences want to get our content on whatever screen and platform they choose, and at any time. This means that we can no longer simply offer them programs at predetermined times. And that is why in regional centres we provide more than just supper hour newscasts or radio newscasts at specific times of the day. This approach aims to establish a more direct connection with our local audiences to keep pace with their changing media habits. It is at the very core of CBC Radio-Canada. The principle behind this new relationship with local audiences is simple. It can be summed up by a more local, more often, on more screens. Specifically, Radio-Canada Regional Services has trained 600 people across the country on these new digital tools which are required for the transition. When teams go out in the field, they still produce content for TV and radio, of course, but their first and main priority now is digital and mobile. The promise that we're making to local audiences is to serve them 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is a big promise. This increased presence has allowed Radio-Canada's local and regional stations to have many more connection points throughout the day with the communities they serve. Our reporters constantly update developing stories thanks to 7 new regional websites, 2 in Ontario, 2 in eastern Quebec, and 3 in Atlantic Canada, bringing the total to 21 nationwide. They provide a steady presence on Facebook and other digital platforms. Our news anchors certainly are active all day long in the various digital platforms and make targeted appearances on TV and radio to keep audiences informed of the day's events. And we already have seen the fruit of our efforts. There has been a 21% jump in the first 3 months of 2016 in terms of our regional web pages. Radio-Canada is committed to getting closer to its local and regional audiences, and I'm going to show you a short video that illustrates the shift in our local coverage, a shift that allows us to be more responsive to the news of the day and to follow developing stories across all our platforms day long. This is Martine Laberge, who covered the story of the bridges, the Ontario Bridge.
La journaliste dans le nord de l'Ontario avait envoyé un courriel à tous.
À partir de ce moment-là, il y a toute une machine qui s'est mise en marche.
On l'a su vers 17 heures à peu près et ça a pris moins de 30 minutes avant qu'on ait déjà un texte sur le web.
Je me suis assuré que Montréal était prévenu parce que c'était une nouvelle qui avait des répercussions nationales.
Non, écoute, c'est la France canadienne.
La rédactrice, elle a eu aussi le réflexe de mettre un titre punché qui, je pense, a beaucoup joué sur le succès de ce texte-là. C'était le Canada coupé en deux. Et c'était vrai aussi parce que toutes les routes passaient par ce pont-là.
Martine a été la première caméra à être sur place.
Le prochain hôpital est à plus de 100 km.
C'est à cause de sa présence sur le territoire qu'on a pu faire cette couverture si vite.
Et elle leur a demandé si elle pouvait aller sous la structure.
Et elle a pu montrer les boulons d'ancrage qui avaient cédé.
Elle aurait pu garder ces images-là pour son topo à la télé, mais tout de suite, elle m'a contacté.
Je me trouve en ce moment sous le pont de Népéguine.
Donc, il y a eu une volonté comme ça de servir toutes les plateformes là, pendant toute la couverture.
Et c'est quand il y a une histoire comme ça qui survient un dimanche soir, alors qu'on est à la maison et qu'on a des équipes réduites, qu'on se rend compte que les réflexes du virage web commencent à rentrer.
Vous voyez, il y a quelques années, notre couverture.
Some years ago, our coverage of an event like that would have been very different. There would have been radio reports and a major a newscast at the end of the day. But now we are there. It's very immediate on all platforms, and we are also able to cover it on the web. As she said, it is a bridge problem that cut the country in half, basically, when that bridge went out. So it's a new way of covering the news. We have dealt and covered with Fort McMurray, but we were able to link what was happening in Fort McMurray with the local coverage, and it was very, very important. It is important to note that the role and importance of Radio-Canada stations vary from one region to the next. Outside Quebec, French-speaking communities, and this is very important, are in a minority language setting. Radio-Canada is often the main, if not the sole, source of news in French. In Quebec regional centres, Radio-Canada operates in an environment where there are more French-language media outlets. In the Quebec, Montreal, and Ottawa markets, Radio-Canada is evolving in a highly competitive market. But despite these differences, Radio-Canada must fulfill the same public service mandate, regardless of where it broadcasts. And that is, it must provide Canadians with the information they need to make informed choices. I have to stress this. We are talking about citizens here, not our clientele. This is something that is very important. The mission means that they will be able to Canadians will be able to make choices, informed choices in their own lives. That is our mission statement. This mission also means seeing how major national issues play out in local communities, whether it's the survival of French, the bill on medically assisted dying, which is certainly a major issue, or the resettling of Syrian refugees. Each of these experiences adds to the national conversation about the issues of the day, allowing us to go beyond traditional regional reflection on the national network and to better reveal the country to our audiences. With this goal in mind, we will invest more in building a network of national correspondents based in regional centres. We also plan to send our anchors and current affairs beyond Montreal and Quebec more often. These comprehensive news offerings, one that includes a closer, more ongoing connection with our local and regional audiences, seeks to give keep residents informed of the latest breaking news while helping them make sense of what is shaping their lives and their communities. I thank you for your attention, and I would be very happy indeed to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Because of the videos, we had a little extra time there, and we certainly appreciate your efforts in providing us with the information you have. So this morning, we'll start off our first 7-minute round with Mr. Brujan, and I'll try to give you about 2 minutes time warning when there's only a couple of minutes left.
Thank you. I was looking through your mandate as set out in the Broadcasting Act, and I'm focusing right now on Part 6, contribute to shared national consciousness and identity, and Part 8, reflect the multicultural and multiracial nature of Canada. We heard the evidence a few meetings ago from members of the Punjabi press and Ukrainian press, and they were commenting on the fact that they didn't feel like their community's voices were reflected in mainstream media, and that was part of what the service they were providing. But they felt there was a disconnect there, and I know that there used to be a Punjabi hockey night in Canada, which I'm assuming is no longer there. But how do you make that connection to the communities and make sure that those local and diverse voices are being brought through?
So reflecting the nature of Canada is an absolute priority for CBC. And we actually get very specific in how we approach it. So, for example, in our radio morning shows across the country, we actually set specific objectives for those shows to reflect the communities they're in. And that includes making sure specific community stories are told, making sure we're representing the new face of Canada in terms of all the stories that we do across our platforms, and then obviously changing the nature of the staff within CBC to be more representative, because the perspectives you have around the editorial table obviously help shape the content that you do. So what I would say is it's a top priority. When we look at content, we see content reflecting communities represented. Can we do a better job? Absolutely, we can do a better job, but it is a significant priority for us.
Right. Is there any plan as far as in communications with members working in the various ethnic press to bring in those community voices?
We do. In our regional services, we have managers who connect with various stakeholders in their communities, and we've certainly had partnership conversations with other broadcasters like APTN, and where it makes sense, we'll embark on initiatives together. And in cases, certainly for dealing with our commitment to Aboriginal stories, we've created a standalone Aboriginal content unit, which is based in Winnipeg, but has a national mandate. And we've added editorial resources dedicated to that, which is what generated the Missing and Murdered project, which CBC generated and changed the nature of the conversation around that important issue.
Thank you. I just wanted a quick answer to this, but also on Women's Day, I had asked a question about the representation of women within CBC in managerial and editorial staff. And I was wondering if you could perhaps, do you have percentages as to the number of women who hold senior positions within the CBC?
I guess I'll start as the woman on the panel. I think in English services we have 13 senior managers. 8 of those are women, including the key jobs of EVP of English programming, the head of news, the head of programming are all female. At the corporate level, we have 7 vice presidents. 5 of those are women, including the head of English services and the general counsel of the organization and the CFO.
Thank you. A larger question that I've been looking at, I note that I think when I look at it, about 63% of CBC's funding comes publicly, which leaves a third from advertising, I presume, and that there is a bit of a public-private, it's a hybrid, as opposed to a purely public broadcaster that's working alongside private broadcasters. And I'm just wondering, when you look at that, how does that work? Because we're hearing about advertising dollars, private industry saying that there is a shrinking pie as they move to digital, that there is less advertising that's available. And we have a hybrid organization working side by side. Does it make more sense to render CBC fully public alongside the private broadcasters, or is there another model that would work?
A significant portion of CBC's funding comes from its commercial activities, even in the case of CBC News. In terms of the argument that CBC somehow with digital, taking digital ad potential revenue away from privates, only about 1% of CBC's revenue is from digital. I think the argument that CBC somehow is cannibalizing the business case out there is not necessarily a valid one. We are commercial free on radio. We have commercial services on television. Obviously, we're commercial on video, and we have a subscription service where the bulk of our revenue comes from the BDUs and the revenue we get for the news channels. I would say that it's not feasible in the current economic climate, and I think the argument that somehow we are the cause of the ills is probably not fair.
Sorry, I wasn't actually necessarily even going with the causing of the ills like that. Yeah. Okay. When I was talking about it, it's just that you see in other countries, such as the BBC, you have a fully funded public broadcaster. Yes. We have a hybrid model.
Yes, we do.
And so that creates a difference. And when we're looking at media concentration and local programming, my question is, does a fully public model serve better local programming as opposed to a hybrid?
You will get a different kind of program. if it's commercial free. Certainly, you look at CBC Radio, and it's very different from any of its private competitors. But the key to the argument is fully funded.
Sorry.
Right. At this point, a significant portion of the money for programming comes from CBC's commercial revenues.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Perugin, and now we'll go to 7 minutes to Mr. Waugh.
I'll just pick up on that. It's your most successful property, radio, and yet we have no commercials. It's fully funded by the taxpayer. And I do see your demographics increasing every year on your CBC radio. So why not? I mean, I've always been like, you are out there. This is fully funded by the people of Canada on this, and there is no commercials.
That's correct. Yes, there is commercials around radio properties digitally, but on broadcast it is commercial free. You're right.
That's right. It seems to me, being a former broadcaster, that market is untapped. Millions of dollars could be raised coast to coast to coast if we sold some advertising on your most successful property, which is radio.
Yes. There was a time in history when CBC Radio actually had advertising on it, and you know, it was not seen as successful. Different time, of course. I think for CBC Radio, it would be fundamentally a different product if it was forced to absorb advertising, and I think its strength is in the formats that it has.
What is the cost of the radio programming?
The radio programming. Do you have the breakdown of radio? I'll have to bring that to you. I don't have the cost. I have the cost of the news pieces.
Now, the budget was Christmas for CBC, $675 million. Did you have any input with this government on a 5-year strategy plan, or is it just here's the money, go to it? Did anyone have a plan to, first of all, ask for money and what you were going to use the money for if you did get it?
So certainly the focal point for the money in the context of news and local news was to put it back into programming. On the English side, the local services have been transforming to digital first, but we also at the same time took almost 10% of the budget out. So we have some reinvestment to do to ensure sustainability, and then obviously growth. We have announced that we will be adding local service. We'll be adding a station in London, Ontario, as part of our commitment to the new money. And then obviously the investment for CBC goes beyond news. There'll be investment in the television schedule, in our digital capabilities in terms of fixing some of the technology pieces, and other programming initiatives.
I think regional news has been all over the map. Go ahead.
Pour ce qui est du service de l'information.
With respect to information services, as our colleague from CBC has said, we will reinvest in local regions where there were cuts, and we will also invest in digital and mobile because these are growing sectors. We have to mark our place there. We don't want to forget programming out on the ground. We don't want to recreate what Radio-Canada was before the cutbacks, but we look to the future and we want to invest in as optimal a fashion as possible so that we can produce a product that is of best quality and accessible to all Canadians.
I would say your regional television has struggled. Sometimes you go to an hour-and-a-half format, and then a year later you're back down to a half an hour. You still don't provide any weekend television local news.
Yes, I would agree with your comment. There have been very different strategies with respect to television. Radio has been a pretty static strategy in terms of local service, and I think where we are sitting now is our view is that the obligation for CBC is to really invest digitally. You know, the goal is to treat local services as an ecosystem. Our radio services are very successful, but they reach a set demographic. And if we are going to provide public service journalism and public service, millennial Canadians and younger Canadians, we have to reach them where they're consuming content, and that is on digital platforms. It's not a well-known fact, but it might surprise you to know that CBC Online reaches almost 52% of millennials digitally. So they're engaged, and they're engaging in news content, but they are not engaging in that content on television.
And that's different from what we were told last week by the press that said the younger people are not interested in news digitally.
That has not been our experience.
That hasn't been your experience. Bundling, I looked at the bundling. I see CBC is on HD, so that means I pay a fee to CBC also on these bundles, right? I mean, each channel on there gets some money. How much money does CBC make out of Kevin Waugh? Yeah. You know what I'm saying, though, when I buy a bundle, so yes. We're going to the $25 basic bundle, but I did notice in there that each channel gets money.
That's correct.
So CBC also gets a revenue stream from Kevin Waugh, who would buy that bundle. You know?
It's a different service. So, yes, our news channel is a paid service, and it's the fee for that gets negotiated BDU by BDU. So, and they're currently renegotiating that in the context of Pick and Pay.
Yeah.
J'aimerais juste préciser, Monsieur Waugh.
Mr. Waugh, I'd like to add this, that the major channels, French Radio-Canada and the main CBC channel are distributed free of charge.
I will say this, I feel for you guys, French in Saskatchewan, because it's such a small market, and yet you're dealing with the, Gravelbergs and Zenon Parks, and it's pockets. And to find resources to feed francophones in Saskatchewan, or in fact Manitoba, is very, very difficult, I would say. You're having a struggle.
Et je vous dirais, moi,
I'd also add, I'm very proud of the fact that we continue to serve the francophones in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. But we do want to increase what we produce on the web from morning to night, 7 days a week. We have a lot of radio services sufficient to serve francophones in those provinces, and also we have a news program at 6 p.m. and it's a large part of the province that listens to it. We continue to be there for francophones outside of Quebec in other areas of the country.
I noticed in your presentation this morning you did mention, if I can quickly get to it here on page 4, if you don't mind me leafing through this thing, you said on how to deliver more local services at less cost. Explain that, because you are going to get a healthy increase in your budget, and we do hear there's still cuts coming down the pipe.
I think there are two things going on. CBC did have cost reductions connected to the overall budgets, but we're also re-engineering our newsrooms to be multi-platform newsrooms. So in the past, you would have had separate newsrooms for local, for radio, for television, and separate assignment processes. What we have been doing quite aggressively, probably more aggressively than most, is integrating our services. So having a single multi-platform assignment process and pulling out any duplication in coverage, and then sharing the content more effectively across platforms. This has been key to our ability to be able to reinvest in augmented journalism, like investigative and enterprise journalism, at a time when we're actually downsizing, and allowed us to expand our service particularly in digital mobile. We are now 18 hours a day continuous service on digital mobile. We've maintained our footprint on television, on radio. We shrunk our footprint on television, and we did this with a 10% reduction in cost. Now, we've cut too deep. We have to make some adjustments, but I think changing the way we work is key to our ability to compete in this kind of digital age.
Where will that's it. Thank you.
I think I've already given you a few extra seconds there, Mr. Waugh, so move forward.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci à...
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you all for being here this morning. I'm always happy to see the CBC Radio-Canada here. I'm very much attached to Radio-Canada, And I know that there are people of my generation here on the panel who certainly will remember that there was the wonderful animation program that appeared on Radio-Canada. And I have never had the perception, this old perception that has been attributed to Radio-Canada as being rather fusty. The metropolitan areas listen to Radio-Canada. The idea of web services, radio, TV that are cross-Canada is something that's very, very important. It's something classic. It's the very nature of Radio-Canada, CBC, as well. I would also like to state that for many years you were accused of having an approach and programming that wasn't really friendly. On the contrary, I thought that you were amongst the first to speak about the Internet in what you were doing. I imagine that all of this is part of your mandate, and you have been fulfilling this mandate very well and for a very long time. I also feel and probably this is going to become a question. There are various difficult levels of reach, of efficacy of the platforms that you use. I think that it's an advantage for you in one platform not to have any ads, but there is a proposal that can be made about the type of interviews that could be set up and the fact that it should be across Canada. This level of success that you have achieved in terms of television versus Canadian English television, and there has, I would add, been many impacts on that. Let me just now come back to your digitization. Digitization, I think, allows for a more flexible approach to reach the regions. One of the angles, of course, is to ensure that language communities outside of the main areas have access to programming in their language. However, there is this paradox in that you are offering more services on internet, yet in certain areas of this country they don't access the internet. So how can you explain that? Well, yes, high-speed internet and access to it is certainly an issue for Canadians in remote areas, in various areas of the country. However, high-speed internet access is growing, it's broadening, and the priority for us is to be there, to make that a service available for citizens. We produce content, and so our first concern is to produce images, programs, content. Now, with respect to the issue of efficacy of our resources, Martine Laberge, who works in Hearst, Ontario, she's a video journalist. She works on her own. She does her own camera work. She prepares her own scripts. She uploads her own scripts. All of this is very important, and this is something that we would like to develop. For example, equipment like cameras. Cameras are not as costly as they were in the past, and so in the framework, in the context of morning to night coverage, we will be able, with these tools, to provide more efficient coverage. There are a lot of people who are concerned about your satellite trucks have been reduced in number. What has replaced them? Well, now you can broadcast without being in a truck. In Fort McMurray, for example, we had the Prime Minister's visit when he went up to Fort McMurray. He broadcast the Premier, when he went up to see Fort McMurray, we were able to broadcast live. And we broadcast through an iPhone with Digiro technology, which is really broadcasting with a mobile phone. The quality is acceptable. This is an advantage in that you don't really need a satellite truck. You use it when you have to. Of course, the signals are not always available, but I think that the equipment that 15 years ago was mounted in a truck probably is obsolete now. So this is a new approach, a new way, and I think this is a positive for everyone. Yes, I agree. Technological change, recruiting these journalists who are able to perform many duties and many tasks, all of that is to the good. I don't know who asked the question. I thought about this earlier, but I forgot to come back to it. Digital investment. Digital investment is sometimes seen as a major block. Is there any way that you can give us an idea of your investment by sector, English, French, and so on? Or do I have to wait for Mr. Lacroix to appear? Well, it's not quite clear yet how this money will be spent. Normally, the CEO should appear and deal with that. But I would just add this. If you were to go to a regional Radio-Canada office, let's say here in Ottawa, you would note the way things operate, how there is an integration of all our operations. There is the web, satellite radio. There is a flexibility, a movement, a flow between the various platforms, whether it's a radio program, where you want to, say, increase the digital presence, you use the platform that allows for the most flexibility and movement. And I think in terms of technology, what we want to do is keep Canada abreast of new technological change. How we do things is important. And citizens recognize today, as much as they did in the past, the value that Radio-Canada brings them and to all the country. Okay, later I'll ask more questions.
Mr. Chair, it's good to see you here. My first job was as a 10-year-old reporter on Anybody Home on Saturday mornings. So I'll blame you.
That's a few years ago.
That was a few years ago. But, you know, importantly, and I think of it in Fort McMurray, when I was growing up in Goose Bay, Labrador, and we had to evacuate because of a forest fire, CBC was our lifeline, and it is for many people who live in the north and who live in local areas. So what I want to concentrate now in my questions to you may sound provincial in the sense that, you know, I grew up in Newfoundland and Labrador, and so my examples will come from there. But where I'm going with that is we're local newsstands and how we handle that nationally. I'll take you back in time to the early 1990s, mid-1990s. I can't remember the exact date, but Here and Now, which is a local supper hour newscast in St. John's, does extremely well, and certainly when I was growing up was an institution. It was so pervasive that if you added up, not per capita, but if you added up absolute numbers of the viewers that they had in every other supper hour market, Calgary, Toronto, Vancouver, Halifax, it did not equal in absolute numbers the number of people who watched Here and Now. So you got rid of it, which I find astounding. I did then, and the Canada Now experiment began. Ian Hannah-Mansing came in. Eventually the move came that it would be a half an hour of local television. But I find that astounding because if you saw any such glaring success in any other environment by any other company, you immediately go, how can we possibly learn from that? How can we not emulate that and duplicate that in our other markets? Because these guys are obviously onto something. But somebody at the time, not you, this is before your time, but somebody thought better. In fact, a number of people thought better. In fact, it seems to me an entire mentality thought better, which gives me great cause for concern. Because even though Here and Now in St. John's has gone back to its hour, it is no longer anywhere near what it was. And the private network that immediately grabbed about 75% of the market share after that, because people didn't want a half an hour, they wanted an hour. And that half an hour, the news became even less than that because of weather and sports and the other sundry items that you have to have in a separate hour newscast. It was a glaring lack of judgment. So I'm very nervous about the latest cuts that my little neck of the woods, which in your eyes should be and is a glaring success, is probably going to have to suffer. Maybe one of you could fill me in on how the most recent round of cuts is now going to take them back, now that they're almost at parity with that private network.
I'm happy to tell you that Here and Now is substantially back, perhaps not quite to the historic levels you're talking about, but still neck and neck with VOCM in the marketplace and very vital to the life of Newfoundland and Labrador. In fact, an example I wanted to bring to your attention about the commitment of local broadcasting to the community happened on Here and Now just a few weeks ago when, as you know, the provincial budget is a matter of considerable interest in that province right now. And so our staff there turned over the whole airwaves for an hour to have the Premier and the Finance Minister on live to talk about the budget. Yeah, and you were one of 700 people that sent in comments, and they answered. And we were on Facebook. It was a grand event.
Direct line for my comments. It's one of the privileges of the job. But anyway,
there you go. But absolutely, Here and Now is vital to us and to Newfoundland and Labrador. It's one of our two most successful evening news programs, along with Compass and Prince Edward Island in terms of viewers. Interestingly, in Newfoundland and Labrador, the staff there is now not only working with that program, they are one of our leaders in providing digital services throughout the province, and they're leading in some of our experimental activities in just starting out an experiment to do a YouTube channel, a local YouTube channel for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Digital services, I use them every day, and I think that you guys do excellent work there. I'm a big fan of radio, too. I think you do excellent work there. Let me cut to the quick, because the word on the street is that you're regionalizing everything in Halifax.
No, what's been...
Or how are you regionalizing in Halifax? I mean, let's get to it.
So here's what has been regionalized and what hasn't. What has been regionalized is we took a decision about 3 years ago now, I think, to change the management structure of our regions across the country. And so what used to be the Maritimes and Newfoundland and Labrador as two separate CBC regions became one. I happened to be the managing director at the time and was part of that activity. So we did centralize the senior management for the region, but at the same time of doing that, we decentralized from Toronto to Halifax the more and more decision making about what would be going on in Atlantic Canada. So it was movement in two directions at the same time. It was bringing, to some extent, the national decisions closer to the regions. The other thing that was done as a regionalization was to do regional late night and weekend television news. Aside from that, there's still morning shows. The 4 morning shows in Newfoundland and Labrador are still morning shows. The noon show is still a noon show for Newfoundland and Labrador. The evening news Here and Now is still for Newfoundland and Labrador. The digital service is still a digital service for Newfoundland and Labrador. So it's really the impact has been at a senior management level, and also at the late night and weekend are two lowest watched television programs.
The late night TV newscast is closed. The weekend news, Newfoundland and Labrador is closed.
Late night and weekend come from Halifax.
And you know, as somebody perhaps, as he said, who's been there, that, you know, with all due respect to my friends from Nova Scotia, there's no Atlantic in terms of your broadcast market. People are not in St. John's interested in what's going on in Halifax any more than they're interested in what's going on in Toronto. And the reason I bring this up is because if you listen to people on the ground and local people there, that is what they will tell you. The performance hour that you put on that's based out of Halifax, nobody watches Newfoundland and Labrador. It's that simple. We're an hour and a half from St. John's to Halifax, and it's an hour and a half from Halifax to Ottawa.
So what?
It's a very, very different place. And I wouldn't mind if I was just here saying, you know, be charitable and look after, you know, my rock out there and that large piece of land that's just north to it. But it's a market that's starving for you, and it just seems to me that time and again I have seen management decisions that come that seem to, it's the goose that lays the golden egg in terms of both the model and the absolute numbers of people who watch. People that crave you. And yet they often, I find, fall victim to across-the-board cuts that seem to be done with no creativity or listening to the people who are on the ground, and no thought to that, or, you know, experiments like Canada Now. When it worked, I don't get it.
So
just a quick answer, please.
Okay, I would just say that the financial pressures of CBC absolutely contributed to the decisions we made locally. As you can appreciate, full service in every market and multiple markets is it costs a lot of money, and every community would say the same thing, that they want a full roster of local services from CBC, and communities where we're not and people would like us to be would say the very same thing.
Thank you. Those questions, Mr. O'Regan, and just want to, I've been reminded to ask everyone, when you're speaking, if you could take your headphones out, or your earphones, I should say, out when you're speaking, both the panelists and the members as well. We'll go to 7 minutes to Mr. Waugh then as well.
I'm going to pick up on the venting Seamus. Private broadcasting. I thought it was just me that went off the wall in this.
No.
Private broadcasters we've had here, and to be honest with you, the private broadcasters locally produce more news than CBC locally. You don't have a noon show locally in my province. You have a 5-minute introduction at 10:55, late news. You're hiring anchors to do one newscast. To be frank with you, you're hiring anchors at exorbitant wages at some of them to do one newscast that, quite frankly, rating-wise, you're third or fourth in the market. So, you know, if we're going to get into this local, what does local mean to CBC? When I look at my province, you're getting destroyed because you're on either 30 minutes or maybe you've extended it to an hour next year. And we don't see you at noon. We don't see you any other time. The anchor that does the 6 o'clock doesn't even do the late night show. I like those jobs.
So the way you're framing the question is assuming that the definition of local is television, and we don't look at the market that way. We know that there are different demographics consuming news in different ways across platforms, and we know that our services do different things, but we look at local service collectively. We look at it in terms of our radio, digital, and our television services. In terms of our television sub-hour teams, we don't view it as just a television sub-hour team. We have expectations of our talent, including our hosting talent, to be present in other spaces, including our digital platforms. So we see it really as an ecosystem, and we see television not only being broadcast on our own airwaves, but within social media spaces. So it's a different ecosystem, and it's multiple outputs, and it's a collective service to the audience. And the real reason for that is the audience is moving, and we feel that our obligation is to meet them where they are.
It's branding. The anchors represent the station. So if I see them once a day, pretty hard to brand your station. If I only see her at 6 o'clock. Plus, you don't have a vehicle where you can actually peel the onion on a news story and do a 10-minute sit-down interview with whoever. You give me the 2.5-minute story, but you don't give me the capabilities on any of the local CBC regionals to actually have a sit-down and peel back the onion and get into an issue.
Certainly our radio service is framed around current affairs, and the television service currently is framed around news. And the digital piece will do both. It'll do breaking news and depth. It is what consumers want at 6 o'clock. They want a news program. They don't want a long-form interview program at that time of day.
Ratings, you're wrong.
I just want to underscore this point about how we no longer look at a single platform as a standalone platform. I can't speak to the specifics of the anchor in Saskatchewan, but generally I can say that our anchors and our producers and our reporters typically are working on multiple platforms at any given time on any given day. So they might be, and where they have a profile in the community. Yes, we want to take advantage of that, leverage that to increase connection with audiences. So it could be a column online. It could be appearing on one of the radio programs. It could be doing something, a community event out in the community. As well, our hosts and anchors are active journalists, and they're involved in writing the program and the production of the program and of all the behind the scenes as well. So believe me, they're busy, and we're trying to have their presence in front of the community at every opportunity we can.
J'aimerais juste peut-être faire écho à cette question-là.
Just like to echo what was said in answer to this question. I don't know if you're talking about French or English newscasts, but in the case of the Francophone market, the person that is anchoring the newscast at 6 o'clock is very much solicited on other platforms. That is to say, the other types of digital media and so on. And are, with time, have become lineup editors. The anchors over time have become lineup editors. So they are people, they multitask quite a lot, and they do all kinds of jobs. And that transformation has allowed us to acquire the funding to improve our digital service and to improve our internet universe services as well.
I would say CBC's just caught up to the private industry. I mean, the privates have been doing this for years. No longer just put the mic on and sit in front of the camera. They've been producing news. They've been writing news for years. So I would say the CBC's just catching up, if you don't mind me saying that. Because when I went to news conferences, you had a photographer, you had a reporter from English, you had a photographer from the French, you had a reporter from the French, and now you had the digital. So you had 5 CBC news reporters at one event. So hopefully you're streamlining that, and that I do.
And I agree in terms of the production of television has been streamlined. But the difference with a CBC local person today is, for example, different than my understanding of CTV, is that they are working across all the platforms.
That's good.
And local is also, we use our local reporters on the national platform, so you would see our local reporters very present on the news channel. One
last question. Your use of freelancers. Talk about that, because your probably most famous issue is the issue panel on CBC, and yet they're all freelancers. And so you're not even branding CBC maybe on your most important 10-minute segment on television on Thursday. Well, yeah, we saw that during the election, which could have been a conflict, but I won't go there right now.
Okay. In our local services, we use freelancers primarily as radio contributors, not a lot on local TV, and certainly on the news channel and on national television. It allows us to bring other voices in. Sometimes freelancers are places that we're not, and we need access to their ability to bring us to the content. So it is a traditional thing and has been going on for a long, long time.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to go to Mr. Hutton for 7 minutes.
Le Président, merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to our witnesses for being here with us this morning. Listen, we've heard all kinds of figures since the outset, but if I am not mistaken, I understand that you've had an increase in terms of the previous budget of $675 million for the first year, and $150 million per year for the 4 subsequent years, which represents a 8.2% increase in terms of your budget and 14%, 14.4% in subsequent years. That's rather special. That's a significant amount of money, but it is special for Radio-Canada, CBC, and Canadians. What will your priorities be then in terms of this increased funding? What will you do for Canadians? Microphone, please. In terms of the information services for Radio-Canada, I can speak to that, not the rest. We are not going to try to rewrite the past or to rebuild necessarily what was there 5 years ago. What we will do is to develop digital services and also services offered on smartphones. And we want to lever this in terms of the rest of programming. Let me give you an example. The Aboriginal women in Labrador, that program, I'm sure you're aware of it. We wanted to produce capsules for digital platforms drawn from that programming. It allowed people to consume the same subject in different forms during that week. And so that's a type of outreach of programming. We use digital to draw in a new audience, but basing that on high-quality journalism. That's the square root of what we want to do. And also, as I said, we are looking at original content. Everybody is asking for new products now, and what distinguishes Radio-Canada is that we produce original products. And that is what broadcasters and the media are asking for, original content that respects what is the trademark, if you like, of Radio-Canada. We, in our mandate, have to ensure that we provide quality content, that we use digital in so far as possible to reach as many people, and Canadians will be able to find that material there. There's another conversation that has been opened up as to discoverability, in that people can turn to Radio-Canada. These are the axes upon which we build our project for seeking improved quality nationally and internationally, because that's important for us too. We use the new digital to allow to propagate our products and to let people know the products are there. The three priorities in terms of regional service are, first of all, the digital shift. And I echo Michelle on that. In each of the major regions, we want to ensure that we are active on the web with our regional websites, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, to be able to cover the news when it happens, and also to accompany citizens in their regions when they decide and when they're awake to turn to a digital platform. So that is what we are doing, and that is what we want to consolidate over the coming years. Our second priority is to establish a service that was lost in the cutbacks. We have a Francophone community that is in a minority position in the West and in Ontario, and many things had to be reduced, cut back. There, in terms of the cultural, social context for these people. So we want to, and we know that there is a great deal of activity in these communities that is important for them. It's important for us to keep the people in contact. If that is not done through certain programming, that contact will be lost. Our third is the issue of succession. particularly in the regions, not necessarily Ottawa, Montreal, Gatineau, outside of this area. We have difficulty recruiting people to come and work, the next generation of journalists, editors, and so on for Radio-Canada. What we want to do is to ensure that the succession is there in place so that we can offer in the future, continue to offer in the future, the services that Canadians want.
Just going to finish the story. On the English side, we're investing in local, fixing some of the pressure points in terms of the cuts that we've made and expanding our service with the first station announced in London, Ontario. We're also investing in international coverage. You'll see us create more pop-up bureaus through CBC News. And then for the rest of the English services, it's investment in content, particularly dramatic content, and our digital capabilities.
Okay, we'll go to Mr. Waugh again, here for 7.
Okay. I just wanted to talk about, first of all, thank you on your 3 services that you just talked about. So I hear the French got cut back. I don't know if it got cut back as much as the English portion of it. So you're going to get some money. Now, how does this work on CBC? I know there's radio, there's digital, there's English television, and there's French. So do you get the same amount of money as the English on your budget?
We get for the regions, we get a similar amount, but it's, I would say, budgets on the French side are applied to the priorities on the French side, and budgets on the English side are applied to the priorities on the English side. But in this case, for the first year, it's a similar amount.
Which would be how much?
For the regional services, it's about $3 million that will be applied for the first year of the reinvestment.
Okay, out of the $75 million that the new government has promised you. Same with yours then, right?
On the English side, it's $3.5 million to news, with $2 million going into local services, notwithstanding the expansion piece, which would be separate.
What is local services?
Anything that is local for local, so it would be local radio, local television, and local digital that is based in the community. Also, some of our music services.
Yeah, I'm going to say I will compliment you. I've seen many cameramen from Western Canada down here on professional development over the last 6 weeks, many from Saskatchewan. So I think your organization does a very good job on professional development. I would say CBC does a way better job than any private broadcaster in this country. You seem to have a higher level of integrity, if you don't mind me saying that.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup pour le commentaire. C'est très gentil.
Thank you very much for the comment, for the kind words. The digital shift is a priority for us. And to do so, we have to train our employees, the employees that we have already with us, who know the business, who know the value of public broadcasting. Those employees have to make the shift towards the new technology using the new tools. We have trained some 1,000 people already for this digital shift, so they acquire new skills.
I just wanted to ask, in terms of your focus on local news, out of Toronto, what do you consider the local market covered by the Toronto radio and television?
It is the greater Toronto area, so the 416 and the 905, that is the primary focus in terms of the local Toronto station.
Because I'm in the greater Toronto area, but I think you might have heard me say it has been literally years since I've seen a CBC camera in my constituency. And I see a CTV one. It used to be every weekend. Now maybe it's every 3rd or 4th weekend. And usually when something breaks, you have one of those things where you have someone on the phone and a map, and they declare that this is happening north of the GTA. It's actually in the GTA, but they always say that. I don't know if if you looked into what I'd said in the past, you'd looked into that at all and have any comment on the way that sort of East Gwillimbury, Georgina, Northern York region just isn't on the map as far as CBC is concerned.
We've experimented by putting sort of bureaus within the City of Toronto to try to do a better job of covering. But I take your point. I think we we strive to hit the most important stories on any given day for all of Toronto, wherever they live. Could we do a better job reflecting the different communities in Toronto? Absolutely.
Because certainly the impression is, even for folks who live in parts of the old Metro Toronto, it's sort of like CBC is the south of St. Clair station.
Right.
And I can tell you, going door to door during elections, you see what people are watching at the news hour, and it is CTV and Global all the way in my neck of the woods.
Right.
And I think that's because occasionally they show up. Occasionally they cover local stories there, and they just don't see that with CBC.
So we are currently in the process of resetting our Toronto sort of programming strategy, and this has actually been an active discussion in terms, particularly of the television product. I think the radio piece is quite successful across the GTA, and hopefully you'll see improvement on that front.
Well, it didn't. I was saying on the radio side, it used to be very, very different, primarily because a guy named Peter Zosky actually was based up there. But with his departure, it's sort of like we disappeared.
1.5 minutes.
Sorry. Pooling resources. You've partnered with Global, you've partnered with CTV to cut costs. Just talk about that, because there has been resentment in the past, private versus public, but at least now you're in the same room talking. Some of the pooling has worked, some hasn't, but...
So news organizations for a long time have pooled around certain events to save costs. And sometimes it's story-based, and you negotiate a pool around the story. Certainly CBC, like other broadcasters, subscribes to syndicated services to augment our ability to cover wherever we need to be, wherever news breaks. We've also entered into partnerships with some of the new media companies around certain pieces of coverage and content, and we're open to any conversation. I think for all of us, the idea is to bring value to your journalism and spend your money where you can differentiate. And if we're all going to be covering a news conference in essentially the same way, why would you do it 3 times? Why not share what is going to be the same, the same base clip content for everybody?
No. You would be a little different, wouldn't you? I mean, you get the video, but you still need the reporter.
Thank you, Mr. Waugh, for your quick answer there.
Well, in the recent major cooperation with TVA was the funeral of René Angélil. That was sort of a special event. It was quite specific. And so there was a pooling of various broadcasters. But we also can do that for, say, political events, an election campaign, a leadership campaign, or debates amongst the leaders. For us, it's a little bit different in that we have a national mandate and an international mandate, which is focusing a bit more on Quebec. So our editorial priorities vary quite a bit. There is not perhaps immense cooperation and collaboration, but we do so insofar as we can and as often as we can. We are also part of the CBC pool, the global pool, particularly in terms of international events.
Projects. When CBC did the investigation into the Boy Scouts, that was with the Los Angeles Times. We've done investigations with the Toronto Star, certainly around the Panama Papers you've heard.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Mr. Sampson for 7.
Merci beaucoup et merci pour votre présentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I'll start by saying that I agree with Mr. Roy, who referred to the cuts. We haven't seen you very often for some years. There's been less presence. You are less present. But in listening to what's being said, I say perhaps it's too bad you weren't part of the old Conservative government. You could have perhaps, speaking to my colleague, influenced that government not to make so many cutbacks that affected rural communities and local programming. I do agree with my colleague, though, once again. I would say that my colleague from Nova Scotia has brought out a point that has been very important. On election night, Radio-Canada, CBC, announced Mona Sampson, my name rather, as Sampson, but my name is Sanson. My community that supported me said that the only Acadian candidate, myself, from Nova Scotia, multiplied by the population, I was the only one, but there was no comment on my success, and that was capped off by a mispronunciation of my name. Radio-Canada didn't handle that very well, my colleagues tell me. I know I'm from Moncton, and I know the Sansons, but I do apologize that your name was mispronounced. You were so successful that the whole Atlantic area was read from the very beginning, from the get-go. But let me say the specificity of local struggles are certainly of interest. Let me say that in terms of local coverage, we have to look at the coverage of given to the regions in terms of the Téléjournal 22 jours, 22-day newscasting. We every day have people in the regions direct feeding us stories, and I can tell you that there in Cape Breton was a news office. It suffered because of the cuts, but it was neither Bay St. Marie nor Halifax. Thank you. My second question is this new investment that my colleague referred to and that this government has set up. How much is dedicated to local news and minority issues, minority coverage? Thank you for your question. I said earlier that there would be about $3 million this year, $3 million this year that will be invested in regional services throughout the country. And we have 13 TV stations in Montreal. 7 are, though, located outside of Quebec. So we do have a presence in Moncton in Eastern Canada. The funding will be invested in the 3 priorities that I described earlier. I'm not going to repeat them. But the lion's share of the money will be invested in digital content production so that the next generation, that is, your children and your grandchildren, if they develop a relationship with Radio-Canada, they will do so using digital platforms, their telephone, their computer, their smartphone, and so on. This is what the future holds. We want to maintain our connection with the communities that we cover throughout the country, but we want to do so in the North American space on a digital platform basis. Inaudible. We want to develop new strategies for national coverage. We can't show necessarily what goes on in a specific village, which is of interest mostly to the people who live there. But what we want to do is, in the context of medical assistance in dying, how does that village react to this major issue? This is what we call a national conversation on a major issue. Other regions have faced the similar problems, so we certainly do produce for the major audience that exists in Quebec, but we project that to areas outside. So we do have local coverage, we have the mobility of platforms, but there is also this desire to cover national issues in terms of the local context. How does that affect the local populace? This is what we want to see on the screen. Ms. McGuire, the question that my colleague asked earlier, how many women are in positions of management in upper level positions? How many are francophone? How many are anglophone? Can you break it down that way? In the Vice President's Management Committee, Steering Committee, it's half and half, more or less. As to the general figures for the corporation, I think we have them here. If you just give me a moment to try to find the figures. 47% of the corporation for senior management, 47.5%, but in terms of all employees, it's 47.6. So we are certainly always looking at these figures, but these are the present levels. Do I have a last question? The regions that are that don't have access, who still don't have access to digital, to internet, and to television. Will they have it with the new funding? I know that in Newfoundland it's not. Well, can you be a bit more specific, sir, in your question? Are you talking about access to internet services in general? But, well, access to the broadcasting services that are offered on the internet, radio and TV. Well, I mean, they have access in regions that we serve. It's very difficult for me to answer your question specifically. Really, what the issue is here is for citizens to have access to broadband, and that will have an effect on our lot in the future. Well, we're on your side. We're happy to hear that.
Okay, thank you. And, we'll go to Mr. Nantel for a final question.
J'ai combien de temps, Monsieur le Président?
How much time do I have, Chair? I said this earlier. I listen to you a lot, and I think that in Montreal, Quebec City, and elsewhere in Canada, you have very high levels of numbers of hours, people who listen to you. But the cutbacks had a really striking effect on your regular audience. We heard the voiceover the following day of something that had been broadcast in another language the day before, and it was rather aggravating, say, in terms of a legal decision that was being rendered. But I think, though, that there have been efforts made to improve that situation. I do want to congratulate you because I think you are very pragmatic. You've evaluated the situation, but it would be certainly a luxury to have two separate coverages of one single event nowadays. Everybody can have doubts, and I certainly go after the board of directors of Radio-Canada, CBC. This morning I learned that the information center for Radio-Canada, and I'm thinking back here in terms of 15 years, 20 years ago, will be demolished and will be moved. So what was the headquarters will be moved elsewhere, will be established somewhere else. You say I've got a big share of the pie now, I'm going to eat more of it. Is that why? Is this super necessary for you to carry out your mandate? Why is it necessary for you to have a complete information on a site development, particularly when a building that's being demolished like that, I think probably would take maybe some 40 minutes or so. Well, let me say I can't really comment on a private issue. All I can say is this. The new headquarters that are projected, that project will require certain changes. There's a whole array of factors here that will be involved in that decision. But I can't say more than that because this is under negotiation, and certainly there are projects that may be developed on certain parts of the building where there could be stores underneath on the ground level and so on. Now, with respect to the news, and sometimes you hear journalists on TV or radio. It's not necessarily because there have been cutbacks. It's because they work on different platforms. A voiceover on TV or radio. Well, we do have journalists that are specialists in radio or in television. Yvon Desjardins was sent, say, to cover something that happened in Africa. He works primarily in radio, so these are very difficult assignments. What we seek to do is to use our people to cast them in as effective a way as possible. Well, say for a press conference, though you might have a journalist who is there, but where that would happen. If you want continuous coverage, breaking news on a subject, we will assign a second reporter, a journalist, who will go a little further, dig deeper into the subject. So you will have this person dealing with the breaking news and the other person doing the investigative part. Bernard de Rome was very proud to be able to speak to the information that he was able to access. I mean, even in terms, say, of what happened at the Bataclan in Paris. I admire what you've done on the other side as well, on TVA. TVA is doing a great deal as well for regional coverage. Sometimes, I'm not talking about RDI, I'm talking about Radio-Canada in terms of a systematic regional approach. In Moncton, for example, there was an issue involving a judge. Can you imagine a methodical way of approaching regional news to be able to broadcast it? On RDI, if you look at it in the morning, we have people everywhere. We have Michel Prudhoe, one of our correspondents, and one of his first jobs is to see to the programming on RDI. But, okay. I'm referring to TVA in particular and RDI. I'm an avid consumer of news, but I wonder about its reflecting the totality of French Canadians. Let me ask this. I have great expectations with respect to Minister Joly's consultations. I would like to know what you think when they say that everything is on the table. Does that mean that CBC Radio-Canada is in favor of a tighter approach to Internet services? What is your position with respect to all that? Discussions are underway. I can't establish a position for Radio-Canada CBC this morning, but digital is extremely important for us. I think of a Première Plus, which is one of the programs that we can use for people who are listening to podcasts. All of that will allow Canadians to discover new formulas, new formulae, where throughout their whole day they can access news, to consume news, and news will be much easier to find. If you look at Point TV, it's the same thing. You can catch up with the news, and there are some innovative ways of approaching the digital news. So for information, we proceed in the same way. For digital is allowing us to validate the content and to allow content to be more available. I'm asking you this question because CBC must, the champions of digital. I think CBC are the champions of digital. I just wanted to have your name, your idea rather, as to the policies before they may be changed or they are under discussion. Well, I can't say more than I've said about digital. The plan that we set up 2 years ago is a plan that is leading us towards a substantial digitization. We want to be able to achieve our plan to be the digital champion, as you say, in terms of local coverage, because that's the objective of your committee. CBC Radio-Canada has a solution to the local coverage problem, which is a good one, which is efficient and effective.
I think that does end our time that we have. We've gone a little bit over, but we started a little bit late. So I wanted to just thank our 4 executives here from Canadian Broadcasting Corporation that have been with us this morning, and thank you for your presentation, but also the depth of the answers that you've been able to supply with us as well. And thanks to the panels for the questions that we've had and the information that we've been able to gather this morning. So thank you very much. I do have just a couple of questions that I had myself that I'll just give to the clerk. Maybe we can provide them to you and get some written answers back at some point. It was just in regards to the staffing breakdowns by provinces and some of those things, if I could do that. And so we'll close this part of the meeting for a bit. We have a bit of an in-camera meeting, so we'll allow everyone to a minute to vacate the room, I guess, if they're not a member of the committee or staff that deals with any of the committee members. Thank you.